Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it honestly. Let's leave the emotion out of it and let's focus on the facts. Okay, Titanfall 3 should not be made. And I don't think this is just my opinion. I think a lot of people thinking realistically about this will agree. And maybe after you hear what I've had to say, you'll agree with me too, if you're sitting on the other side of the fence. Before you rush to the comments, let's just talk about today's climate. Let's just talk about the first point, okay? I know there was a lot of hype built up around the 7th anniversary and us possibly getting it now, but would we really want a new game right now? Do you want a new Titanfall 3 with microtransactions and a battle pass? Do you want it to be completely pay to win? Do you really want it released among the games that are getting a new installment every single year? I don't think that's a good idea. We've got a completely new audience for this sort of game at the moment. Like, these arena shooter games are vastly on the outside of popularity when it comes to FPS games. Let's forget about that. Let's talk about how much life Titanfall 2 still has left in it before we go and just abandon it because Titanfall 3 is new and it's great and it's got a new chance to release at a better time where it's not competing with two big behemoths. Anybody who says that the release of Battlefield 1 and COD Infinite Warfare had nothing to do with its success is completely delusional. If you think that people have endless wallets and could have just bought and sampled each one of the three and then decided which one was the best and they didn't stick with Titanfall, you've lost your mind. It was completely overshadowed on its launch. And I don't think all of our issues are going to be solved by having it released on its own without the new CODs around. At the moment, I think what would really be good is if we started to see a massive DLC or multiple DLCs be released for the game. And let's start from the very top and work our way down. Graphics update. The game is beautiful. Titanfall 2 still looks incredible, but if it's going to keep up and compete with today's shooters, it's got to have some sort of graphics overhaul to make it even more good looking. That's the first thing. That's a minor point. One of the major points I think Titanfall 2 is lacking, which is it's one of its biggest problems and would be a massive seller if there were to be some new installments, is pilot and Titan progression. I love grinding Titanfall. I think it's great. But realistically, I'm not grinding for very much. You know, getting to level 50 is no big feat. If I want to play the game with everything unlocked, it's going to take me, a day, 2 days maybe. If I'm playing with double XP, I can get it done in half a day. Because all the stuff I want for my pilot is unlockable through credits, which I farm instantaneously. I get my 1 or 2 loadouts done within like 10 hours of gameplay, and I don't have to really touch the game again for a grinding sense, ever. Being a high generation is great. It looks really good, but there's no real benefits outside of a few camos for doing that. What I'm suggesting is something similar to Halo, and my best example, Injustice 2, where playing more games resulted in better gear. Being able to fully customize your pilot from head to toe would provide way more incentive, at least for me as a player, to chase that individuality and uniqueness. Because at the moment, we've got a great situation where a lot of people in their respective regions know each other in the community. You're coming up against people that you know all the time. But you get that from seeing the leaderboard. Can you imagine if somebody would be able to recognize you purely based on what your pilot looks like? It's like, oh man, such and such is my lobby. Look at his sick, wicked pilot. I think this would provide so much more longevity for not only new players, but returning players who lost their reason to play the game anymore because they had gotten everything that they wanted. I think it would be really central for a Titanfall update to include a new system for progression. And on top of that, speaking of pilots, let's add in 2 new ones. Let's add in 2 new pilots. Let's change up the strategy on the frontier and the way people have to think. Everybody's really used to all the different tactics of, say seeing a holo pilot or looking for a cloaked person. You know what else would be sick? A new ordnance. Something else to throw at people. Sounds incredible. Along with that, new weapons. New weapons. A lot of people in my last little commentary were very upset at me for saying, do not link Apex and Titanfall. You really don't want a hunting bow in Titanfall 2? Have you lost your mind? Are you being serious with me right now, bro? I would love to shoot somebody across the map with this massive compound bow, launching arrows the size of missiles at other pilots. You know what else they could launch these missiles at? 2 new Titans. Oh my goodness. Have you guys seen the concept art for that Brawler Titan that didn't get released? Can you imagine running around smacking people up with the left, right, good night on a regular day on the frontier just because we had the option to do it? Somebody to challenge and be up there with Ronin in terms of melee, close quarters combatants. You know, something to deal with Scorch holding his shield up because you got stuck in a corner. Having new Titans in the game would completely change how it feels just in its own right, no matter what map they were playing on. Especially if it was new maps. A new, handful, half a dozen, whatever amount they're able to come up with. New maps to run around and play on to spice up the playlist. I have my favorite maps. Many of them are incredible, but a new selection, a wider selection, would be more than welcome, especially if we were getting to visit these maps on a few new game modes. First game mode I think we should add, not really a game mode, free-for-all in private lobbies. That should be a thing. I don't know why that's not a thing. It's kind of a separate point. Really need that to happen. But the more customizability we have in our private matches would be directly related to how much customization and variety there is in the multiplayer playlist. I think that's really central to the narrative of spicing up the game. Also, just a little side point that I think should have been addressed a long time ago. Aegis upgrades, or for the common man, frontier defense upgrades for your Titan should be transferable to online. Sue me. This gives players a reason to do both game modes in tandem with one another. You know, there's a reason to go and grind frontier defense for a little bit, so you've got more options when you come online and want to stump a lobby with your Titan. Also, final point, which I know if I was giving out a Christmas list, Santa would be like, everything else is fine, but you may have pushed it a little bit with this one. DLC to the main campaign, please. Thank you very much. I would like to see a continuation of Cooper's story or somebody else's. You know, I'm not going to be super selfish and say, hey, we need more Cooper and BT. I'm happy for that chapter to be closed. No, I'm not. I'm really not. If they can find somebody new to make it about, let's do that. Common problem that I ran into in the comment section of the last video I did on how Respawn betrayed Titanfall is that everybody thinks the Apex Legends should have nothing to do with the game. I disagree. I think they should be there in some capacity to give consequence to why Apex Legends was made. There's got to be some sort of crossover between the two. It doesn't need to be massive. An example I used was how Omni-Man and that team of Avengers got into a big fight, and it just showed off how Omni-Man was way stronger than everybody. What if it was just that? Can you imagine we got to see Gibraltar's head just get absolutely stomped? You know, that new anime one? I don't even know what she's called. The one that does the fucking ooh finger touch thing? Stomp the head in! Make the pilot look cool. Anyways, just a little point I want to slot in here at the end. I think a lot of what I've mentioned should be locked behind a paywall. I'd be happy to pay $40, $80 for this complete overhaul DLC for Titanfall 2. I think a lot of other people would as well. I saw somebody saying they would pay $1,000 just for a new campaign for Titanfall 2. It's like, I'm spending the money. I'll spend the money. And I think it's a good idea. I think with so much of the potential player base who would be receiving this DLC already owning a copy of the game, I wouldn't expect Respawn or EA to greenlight the redevelopment of this game without some sort of monetary gain for themselves. So I think that should be considered, even if it's just at the end here. But, you know, let me know what you think. If you heavily disagree with me, let me know. I will reply to absolutely everybody. I've got a stream where I discuss this a lot over on Twitch. The Discord is another place for that. But if it's just the comment section, you know, I'll be replying to you there as well. I wish everybody the best of luck in terms of enjoying the game for what it is. I don't see any of what I've listed being realized in the near or distant future, but it's just what I think should happen. Okay. I hope you pilots enjoy the rest of your day.